Good afternoon. This is Mark Gaston with a brief and a very brief markdown. I want to say two things here. The first thing I want to say is today would have been my father's 96th birthday, the Reverend Warren Gaston, who was one time a pastor of two different churches. And if I may just take a moment to say, his legacy regarding the ministry was that he was a man of outreach toward others. He was a people person. He was a person that taught me more about the ministry than any combination of conversations we personally had. I watched him prepare messages. I watched him put a person away during a funeral ceremony with dignity and with respect towards the family that sat on a front row. Those are things that I'll always remember about him, his willingness to visit people in the hospital. I can't tell you how many times I saw that man dressed in a suit, and while I was a boy playing out in the street, I'd see him get in his car, and I'd say to him, "Daddy, where are you going?" And he'd say, "I'm going to go visit some sick." And he would be in his suit. There were times when someone would die, and it could be a weekday, it could be a weekend. And I would see him in that navy blue suit or that black suit. And after a while, I had seen him in it so much on a weekend or on a weekday, I didn't even ask him where he was going. I knew then somebody had died. So I would get in the car with him. He might give me a ride to one of my old jobs. And I'd say, "Who died this time?" Those are the very words I would speak to him. And by the time he got through naming a person's fourth cousins, sisters, uncles, then he'd just stop in mid-sentence and say, you wouldn't know him. You didn't know him. My point is, he made himself accessible to people in the ministry. He made himself accessible to churches. He made himself accessible to people who were in a time of bereavement, families who needed a pastor to dignify the homegoing, the goodbye of a loved one. Those are things I'll always remember about my father, and I have sought to incorporate those qualities into my own ministry. So, Dad, I want to thank you sincerely for giving me and passing on those qualities. And I thank God that God has given me a wife who understands that side of myself and is sensitive to the needs of others as a result of that. And it's been a good commonality with her. The other thing I want to say is in regards to a markdown I did a little earlier regarding the statement, "I have a word." I just want to say about that, in no way, shape, or form was I throwing off on any of my colleagues in the ministry who have prophetic gifts and have prophetic offices. I relish and I admire people who can stand flat-footed and say, "Thus saith the Lord," and mean every word of it and know that they have results backing them. Those are people, and many of the ones I'm alluding to now, are people who, when they speak it, you can take it to the bank. It's going to happen. I know very few that way, but the ones that I do know personally and have had relationship and fellowship with, they live the life. They walk according to the Word, and the Word walks them through the various stages of the ministerial experience, and we're all richer for it. So I want to make sure that I throw those two things in before I conclude this. This is Mark Gaston with a brief markdown. God bless you, and thank you for watching. Have a wonderful day.